Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me, as always. Man, it was a fun week. I don't know about you,
It
but
was a fun week, man.
I was just thinking about it, getting ready for the show. I was like, man, we had the Stanley Cup Finals. We crowned a champion. The NBA Finals keep extending. They are more dramatic than we thought they would be. Next week is a big week. We've got the NBA and the NHL draft, not to mention Game 7 of the NBA Finals tomorrow. So today's going to be a really, really fun show. Really excited for 11 o'clock. We're going to have Matt Babcock on. He's an NBA draft analyst. We're going to do a little bit of a draft preview because, again, Wednesday night is one of the biggest nights for the Jazz in recent memory. I mean, this is the highest draft pick that they've had, Alex, in a very, very long time.
That's right.
And I know that there was a lot of disappointment that they didn't get to top 1 or 2 pick, but whoever they bring in is going to be the best prospect that they've had in a while. So very excited to jump into that with Matt.
Absolutely, man. And like you mentioned, it's going to be a big night on Wednesday for the Utah Jazz. There's a lot of really, really good talent available, and so I'm excited to jump in with Matt and kind of break down what really is available at the number 5 pick for the Utah Jazz. I know it's not the number 1. I know it's not the number 2, but I still think that there's some exciting talent that you can probably get at that number 5.
Also, Ace Bailey, we got to get into all that tea.
Absolutely.
Got to figure out what's going on there. I think this is one of the more fascinating stories. I mean, every year somebody has to fall, right? And I'm going to bring that up with Matt. But it's like, I don't know how much of this is legit or it's just stuff being leaked by teams because it's lying season. So, yeah, we'll get into that with Matt. But before we start the show off, always got to talk about, our weeks. How was your week? Do you have a highlight?
Good week. We got Thursday off.
Yeah.
And so that's probably my highlight, man, I guess. Spent the day running a bunch of errands, getting some car stuff fixed, and just hanging out with family. I also went out with family to go eat and watch Game 6.
Oh, fun.
I did it because I thought OKC was going to wrap up the title there. And I mean, I know we'll jump into it here, but went out to go watch the game out at Buffalo Wild Wings because I thought OKC were going to, hold up an NBA championship at the end of it. But regardless, good wings out of it, good time with family, and that's probably the highlight of my week.
Do you get spicy or what's your strategy there?
Oh, man, honey barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm a
honey
chicken.
Barbecue and Asian Zing.
I'm a chicken. I don't like I like spicy. I just don't like spicy.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
One time I tried, they did like a promo. It was like their hottest rub plus their hottest sauce.
No,
it was for like an MMA fight.
I'm good.
I'm good. I regretted it.
I used to indulge in the mango habanero a lot.
Yeah. Tastes really good, but it's hot.
Very good, but it is spicy, and I like I said, I like spicy, but I'm not the biggest fan.
Sean, you got a highlight?
I went hiking.
On Thursday?
There you go.
On Wednesday, actually.
There you go.
That was my day off.
Where'd you hike?
I went up to Wall Lake.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're a big hiker. I like that.
I like it. Yep. Outdoors.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Get out of the heat.
Dude, it was so hot this week, but I mean today and tomorrow it's supposed to randomly like really, really cool off. But that's the nice part about where we live. I mean, it's the great outdoors is right in our backyard, right?
Absolutely, man. I always love going out there and seeing the views and seeing. I don't know what it is about like just hiking up and then like looking out at the Salt Lake Valley.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. I don't know why, but it's just so.
I love where we live.
So nice.
For me. Yeah, Thursday was fun. I had a friend get married randomly on the Thursday. I thought that was a bit weird, but it was cool. Shout out to them. Beautiful wedding, again, up in Logan. It was
nice.
at a really, really nice venue up there. Really good-looking place. So, yeah, that was fun. And then yesterday was my brother's birthday, so we went out to lunch.
Hey.
And other than that, it's just been dialed in on all these sports, trying to catch up, get ready for the draft. So let's start off with the NBA, Alex. I guess I want to start with this. Some of the controversy that we had here on the station. Did you see the video or hear the segment of Hans and Scotty almost breaking up.
I did.
It got personal there for a second.
It did get personal, man.
If you haven't seen it, I'd go check it out. It's posted on YouTube. I know Hans, as he's posted it on his Twitter, and it's all over social media. They got into a heated exchange, and I guess the basis of the argument started surrounding Tyrese Halliburton because he had going into Game 6, right? So this segment was before Game 6. It was Wednesday. And it was basically an argument of whether or not Tyrese Halliburton should play with his calf strain. And Hans' side of the argument was, yes, you play, you're a competitor, you're here at the finals at the biggest stage, you go no matter what. And Scotty's side of the argument was, what if you end up hurting yourself? What if you tear your Achilles?
Right.
And you mortgage your career's future by going out and playing in a Game 6 when you're already down and the odds of you winning are not that high anyways. Why would you risk that? And it got pretty funny. It is funny because Hans obviously was a professional athlete, so he clearly has that mindset. And then Scotty's mindset was more of the business perspective. What would the team want for their future? And I'm curious where you stand on that. We don't have to fight like Hans and Scotty did.
I hope we don't. But I think I'm on Hans' side with this, man. You don't know if you're ever going to get back to this spot. If you're the Indiana Pacers, right? It's not guaranteed that you'll have that opportunity to return and fight for an NBA championship and play in another finals in your career. So while you're here, I feel like you have to make the most out of it. And I mean, obviously, we saw how Game 6 turned out, and I feel like the Pacers made the most of it. And, if I'm Tyrese Halliburton, while I do run that risk of potentially, popping an Achilles or something, I don't know when I'm going to be back. I don't know when I'm going to come back and return and be able to have a chance to play in an NBA Finals. And so I'm going to give it my all. I think I see the perspective of Hans on this one.
Yeah, and obviously the game has already happened, but there's still a Game 7. So I don't want to talk about it, using retrospect too much. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think you put it perfectly. You never know when you're going to be back here. So go out and make the most of this opportunity because as we saw I know Boston is a funny example because, that ended because of an injury, right?
Yes.
But basically, you never know what's going to happen season to season. Last year at this time, we never thought that Indiana would be back in the conference finals. We thought that was a fluky run. Every year you see teams kind of come up and make it out of nowhere, and then you see teams disappoint. Denver, ever since they won the finals, they have struggled to reach that high again, even though they have the best player in the world. So you can't ever take the future for granted. And if you are there right now, maybe if you're down 3-1, that's a little bit of a different story. But you have the chance to force a Game 7, and that's what they did. And even if they lose tomorrow, I don't think that this was the wrong decision because, again, you just never know. You never know. Next year, the Spurs are probably going to take a big step forward. We're going to see what the Cavaliers do. The Orlando Magic just made a big trade. There are so many more teams in the NBA, and I know things are going to happen to make other teams fall, right? But it's like, it just seems like the NBA is getting more and more wide open. And there's a chance that Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers are never going to sniff the finals again. So go out and try to capture it because you never know when you're going to be back.
100%. And so that's why I don't fault him for the decision to go out and kind of play through this injury. And, even if Tyrese Halliburton is feeling 80, 60% ready to go, he's going to be out there because he doesn't know, right? This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to seize it, especially now going into that Game 7. Whether he's fully healthy, I think obviously impacts the game a lot. But if he's even out there just being Tyrese Halliburton and facilitating the way that he does, I think that the Pacers still have a chance in this series.
Yeah, clearly. And I think that's the line that you draw, right? If he's out there where he is hurting you, like we saw, honestly, in Game 5 when he was clearly impacted, he didn't make a shot the whole game. He made some free throws, right? So he had some points on the board, but he didn't make a single field goal all game. So it was clear that night in Game 5, he was a detriment to the team. If that's the Tyrese Halliburton you were going to get in Game 6 and Game 7, then yeah, bench him because he's hurting your chances of winning.
I agree.
But clearly he felt comfortable enough to play. The coaching staff, the front office felt comfortable with him being out there. And yeah, look at what happened. They win. And that's the nice thing, I guess I would say about Tyrese Halliburton, right? Because his usage rate isn't high. It's not like he is the type of player that needs the ball in his hands to be effective as far as shooting, right? I mean, he's still the driving engine of the offense and the way he passes and the way that he gets everybody involved. But it's not like I'm thinking Donovan Mitchell or Luka Doncic, those dribble shoot type players that, we literally saw Donovan Mitchell with an ankle injury and how much that hurt him in the playoffs. We've seen it multiple times. When his ankles are acting up, he can't get to his spots and he can't create shots like he's used to. And that's where it's a real detriment. But Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, I thought he responded great from the injury. And then obviously it helps when you've got Pascal Siakam doing whatever he's doing in the pregame huddles.
Oh, man.
I love all the jokes coming from that.
That dunk, man.
Oh, the dunk was awesome.
Ooh, phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's what you get. You've got, I mean, that was Tyrese Halliburton reading and reacting, deflecting the pass over Jalen Williams, and then Pascal Siakam just dunking all over J-Dub and Lou Dort, both of them at the same time. So I'm really excited for tomorrow. No matter what happens, I think, I mean, obviously when the series started, everybody was picking OKC in 4 or 5. Nobody thought we'd get a Game 6, let alone a Game 7. And this is the first Game 7 that we've had since LeBron and the Warriors. And thinking back, I was watching a ton of highlights yesterday about, that Game 7 and how much fun it was and the iconic LeBron chase down block and all that. So I'm very excited tomorrow because we don't get Game 7 very often. And most of the time when we do, it's very, very exciting.
Game 7 is probably one of the most exciting phrases in all of sports.
Yeah. Well, that's a discussion that we've had. Didn't we talk about it? Or maybe JJ and Alex talked about it. I can't remember. Like, would you rather be in a Game 7 or a golden goal situation? And that's a debate, for another time. But regardless, I think that's why they do it that way, right? Because if you play one game, anything can happen. The theory is if you play 7 games, the best team is going to win. But if it gets to 7 games, that means these teams are somewhat evenly matched. And even though the final scores of every game haven't necessarily been close outside of Game 1, it's not like there have been a ton of blowouts. I mean, I think 1 or 2 of these games was pretty bad, but outside of that, it hasn't been bad basketball. It's been very, very entertaining.
Absolutely. It's been super entertaining. And these are two, obviously coming into the series, I think a lot of people had written off the Pacers and everyone thought that it was going to be an easy run through for OKC to kind of make it and take this title. But the Pacers have come to play, man. And honestly, I feel like right now, these are 2 evenly matched teams. Like these are 2 teams that are trading blows, saying if you punch me this hard, I'm going to punch you back. And so far we've seen that. And, I think facing elimination, this is the first time the Pacers have faced elimination the entire playoffs, by the way.
Right.
And the way that they responded, obviously, was absolutely tremendous. And to be able to go and to force that Game 7 and even give yourself that opportunity to extend the series and potentially give yourself a chance to go into OKC and, play the upset and be the upset factor on their home court, I think that sets up for an amazing Game 7 tomorrow, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, OKC, obviously, they went 7 games against Denver, and that was a really close series. There were times where it was like, man, the Nuggets might actually do this.
Right.
And yeah, obviously the Thunder ended up coming out of the West, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the Pacers are going to go down as probably one of the most memorable underdog stories of any NBA finals like ever. Because this is, again, like even when the playoffs started, it was Boston and Cleveland. And anybody outside of that would be a shocker. Even though they were in the conference finals last year. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I thought the Pacers were going to the finals this year, right? But I will say, you know, when the finals started and everybody was talking about a sweep or a gentleman's sweep, I did always think that was a little premature because the Pacers are here. It's not like they're nobodies. It's not like they don't deserve to be in the finals. They fought through the East. They had to win games to get here. I think they very much deserved to be in this position. But going up against the juggernaut of the Thunder, one of the best regular season teams that we've seen, especially since that Warriors team that was so great, yeah, it looked like the odds were all stacked against Indiana, and they've never been favored in this series, even when they were up 2-1. The Thunder have always been heavy favorites. So if tomorrow, what time's the game? Afternoon, I'm assuming. If tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night, the Pacers are lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy, I think that's probably going to be one of the biggest underdog wins in any sports championship that we've seen in recent memory.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. Because again, go back to, 2 weeks ago when we found out this matchup was happening, that this was going to be your finals. The odds were not favorable of the Pacers at all. Everybody, like, the conversations I saw on national media, the conversations I saw on social media, even Vegas had the Thunder as big favorites. Nobody even gave the Pacers a shot, and I think that's one of the most underrated storylines in all this, especially now that we are going to a Game 7, especially now that, again, they have that opportunity to go into Paycom Center in OKC and potentially pull off one of the biggest upsets. That, again, the Pacers being the underdog and giving themselves that opportunity to not only make this deep of a run, but now have a chance to go up 4-3 in their place, I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
But then it's hard because on the other side, I mean, you've got stuff that matters for the Thunder too, right? Because for them, this is their chance to put themselves on the map. This is the chance, as we talked about last week, for SGA to establish himself as the face of the NBA. And losing his first career finals is going to be a big detriment to that, especially if it's the year where he wins MVP and they have the best record in the West and all these, net rating records and whatever, all the advanced analytics. If you lose the finals, that's a pretty big blemish on your career as far as, when you get to the very top of the echelon of players in the NBA. So it matters. This matters for Jalen Williams because there were times throughout the playoffs where Thunder fans were talking about they couldn't wait for them to trade him because they didn't think he was a good enough Robin to SGA's Batman. And I know he's played really well throughout these finals and he's gotten better every single game. But odds are if they lose tomorrow, it's because SGA didn't get enough help. I mean, that's what we see when the Thunder lose. It's either Chet or Jalen Williams really disappoints. So, yeah, there's a lot at stake for OKC here. It's not like, it's all sunshine and rainbows for them. They have a bright future set up. I mean, they're going to have to make tough decisions, whether they win or not. But, man, if they lose the finals tomorrow, if they lose to this underdog, this Pacers team that they were supposed to be such heavy favorites, they're really going to have to consider what they want to do with Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams or both of them, not to mention Alex Caruso and Lou Dort and all these other role players that are going to get expensive here very soon.
Yes, 100%. For the Thunder, and look, I know it wasn't any of like the players who said this. It was mostly the media kind of hyping it up, but you want to talk about a dynasty? This is your chance to make that
go
to
out
start
and prove
that
it.
Exactly. This is your chance to go out and begin to prove that you can be a dynasty, that the Thunder can potentially be the next dynasty in the NBA. But if they come up short tomorrow, then I don't want to hear no more dynasty talks. I don't want to hear no more because you haven't won anything.
Right.
You have to go out and prove it on the court. And I thought going into Thursday's Game 6, I thought that the Thunder, I thought it was over, man, especially with Tyrese Halliburton, not 100% healthy.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that the Thunder were going to go in and take care of business, and they were going to be holding up that Larry O'Brien trophy in Indiana. But the reality is they kind of sucked.
That was your chance to put them away.
That was your chance to put them away, and it just wasn't good enough. I think you can't, in a finals, you can't go out and have duds like that.
Yeah.
It's inexcusable to go out and absolutely put up a dud. Even on a road, especially in a closeout game, you have a chance to put them away. Now you're risking yourself going back to your home stadium, to your home arena, and kind of putting it on the line in front of your fans. Mm-hmm. And what happens if you don't come out on top?
Right. Then you look dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Everybody was like, oh, they lost on the road on purpose just so they could go win it at home. Again, you never know. The same thing. You never know what's going to happen night in and night out. And to your point, yeah, if you end up losing, you look ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the trend that we see with some of these young teams, right? We saw it with Indiana even in the New York series. They had a chance to put New York away in New York, but they were up by so many games, they kind of got complacent and they lost, and the series got extended a game longer than it should have for whatever reason. You can boil it down to, Indiana just didn't want to have the dog mentality to put it away that night. So maybe that's what happened with OKC on Thursday. Maybe they got complacent. They said, we weren't ready for Tyrese Halliburton to come out. Yeah, he shocked us. He caught us off guard, but we're going to wrap it up at home. It's a very dangerous game to play, and if you play with fire, you're going to get burned eventually. And even Indiana had a chance. They went up 2-1, and then the next game, Game 4, they came out and they kind of looked flat. So that's what happens. I mean, neither of these teams have been in this spot, right? And I know that some players have. Pascal Siakam has, but there's something there when you talk about finals experience and playoff experience, and that's what it means.
I agree.
Is knowing what mentality to have in every situation. So, it's at the very least, it makes for an entertaining series, right? Because we are getting a Game 7 out of a series that we thought was not going to last this long at the end of the day. And no matter what happens, tomorrow night, there's going to be legacies established, whether that is the Thunder as one of the next potential dynasties and SGA as one of the potential faces of the league, or the Pacers as one of the most fun underdog stories that we've seen in a very long time, and one of the more loved teams by everybody. I can't think of anybody that dislikes the Pacers team. I have not seen, I don't think, a lick of hate towards them.
I think I would agree.
And that's been very fun.
Yes.
And refreshing, to say the least.
I would agree. I think social media is eating it up. I know, when the matchup was, when we first knew what the matchup was going to be, I think that a lot of people were kind of skeptical because of the small market. There was a lot of, talk whether or not that this finals would be able to draw interest, because there's, you think of OKC, you think of the Thunder, you think of the Pacers, it's just not big names.
It's not needle movers, no.
It's not needle movers. But honestly, the series has been extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
It's been so fun to watch. It's been fun basketball, and the legacy, like you said, you got legacies on the line. Can Shea and OKC do it? Can the Pacers pull off one of the craziest underdog stories that I can remember? Watching now Game 7, I think if you're OKC, you gotta clean up whatever turnover mess you had on Thursday night. Because if you continue to turn over the ball the way that you did, you're gonna lose at home.
Yes. 21 turnovers for the Thunder on Thursday compared to only 10 for Indiana. And that was kind of the Thunder's calling card, right? That's been what they do all series. It's the flip side. They would normally turn you over without turning the ball over. So, they turned the ball over. They were poor shooting from 3, 8 of 30. Chet Holmgren was particularly disgusting. 2 of 9 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. He's been very poor from the 3-point line throughout this series.
Yeah.
And I think Chet's hurt his stock a lot. And we'll see what happens tomorrow, and we can have this conversation next week about what the Thunder should do, because they're, as I said, Chet and J-Dub are both due for extensions this summer, and they won't kick in for a year, right? They both still have one more year left on their rookie deals, but this team is going to get expensive. They're going to start pushing that second apron. So they're going to have to make some big decisions, and Chet might be making those decisions for them. But we'll see. We got to take a break, though. Coming up next, we are going to talk about the Stanley Cup Finals. That wrapped up. Obviously, the Florida Panthers are your champions. Really excited to talk about that next. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show. Welcome back, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning, whatever you've got planned today. You got big plans?
No, probably not. I think I'm just going to hang out with family. I don't know what my family's doing. If they're going to like some party or some park or something, I'll probably tag along and go with them. But
yeah,
I just kind of, this weekend's just kind of a go with the flow type of weekend, and we'll see what happens.
There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. Sometimes it's nice to have a low key weekend.
I like I like having a plan, and I like planning things out so then I know what I'm doing and I can be prepared for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm just like, look, whatever happens, happens. And then, sometimes you might end up in Wendover. Who knows?
Who knows? Let's talk NHL Stanley Cup Finals, Alex. That was so much fun throughout the week. I think this was a very fun series, and it kind of opened my eyes to roster building strategies in the NHL, right? Because on one side, you've got the Edmonton Oilers with McDavid and Draisaitl, two of, let's just benefit of the doubt, two of the top 5 forwards in the entire world.
Yes.
Some people would even argue the 2 best forwards in the world. And then outside of that, the rest of their roster is kind of a mess. Meanwhile, Florida, I kid you not, this is probably one of the best hockey teams that we've seen in the last probably half or quarter century at least. And I know that my hockey knowledge does not go back that far. I don't care. I am willing, after watching this series, there is no way that there has been a better hockey team than that in the last 25 years. Am I wrong, Sean? Is that...
There's lots of people claim that online for sure, but there's the LA Kings of 2012, I believe it was. They dominated throughout the whole playoffs.
And that's where it gets close.
Didn't get to a Game 7
because
once.
Right, Toronto took this Florida team to Game 7, and it got real close there. But I'm looking at this team, it's like, I mean, the fun exercise for me, and I talked to one of my friends who's a big hockey nerd. It's like, okay, who's Florida's best player? Right? Yeah. Like Sam Bennett won the Conn Smythe. Sam Reinhart, I felt like was the most valuable player in the finals. Marchand, they don't get there without making that trade and his contributions, right? And I think he finished with 20 points across the postseason. Barkov is one of the best centers in the league, and I know that his points totals weren't up there throughout the playoffs and the finals, but it's like, how important he is to that team. Then you've got guys like Ekblad doing his thing on defense, and then the goaltender, Bobby Bobrovsky. It's like, this has to be one of the deepest, one of the best, most well-rounded hockey teams that we've seen.
I would agree.
It's crazy.
I would agree. I feel like when I was watching this Florida team.
Wait, sorry, timeout. And I totally that's how crazy this team is.
Tkachuk.
I forgot about Tkachuk.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I feel like when you're watching this Florida team, or at least for me, and I don't know if you agree with the sentiment, Christian, but watching this Florida team, like, it's impressive how consistent they stay even when changing lines, right? You can go look at Florida's third line, and I feel like it's still extremely good. There's no drop off between lines. There's no right when certain players are off the ice, and even when a different group of players is in there, it doesn't feel like they drop off dramatically to where it's where they're not playing good hockey. Like every line that they switch out is very, very good.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it such a complete team, is the fact that they can go to their third line and say, look, you guys are still going to be in there, and they're still going to be scoring, and they're still going to be playing incredibly well hockey.
They had a Hall of Famer on their third line.
That's what I'm saying.
In Marchand.
That's what I'm saying.
And you're right. You don't lose the mentality, the intensity that you get with that top line. And that's kind of you go into culture and things like that. That's what Florida has established. And
right.
You see it on the ice and you see it off the ice. And all of these, I've been loving all the videos that we're seeing from the celebration that they've been on the last few days since they won. And that's what makes it hard when it comes to, because free agency is 2 weeks away. And Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand are both slated to be unrestricted free agents. And it would be so cool if Utah could be in on either of those guys. But it seems like they are loving Florida. It seems like what has been established there, they don't want to break up.
Right.
And so I feel like the odds
How could you want to break up?
Right, exactly.
You just went back-to-back.
Back-to-back Stanley Cup finals.
3 straight appearances.
It's crazy.
There's no reason. I feel like if you're Bennett, if you're Marchand, if you're one of these guys who are running is coming up to the free agency and running out of contract, I don't understand why you would want to leave.
No.
I mean, obviously, even if I'm working on an extension with the Florida Panthers to stay there and I have to take a little bit of a pay cut, I'm taking it. Because again, that's 3 straight appearances.
And it feels like that's what you get with hockey anyways. Like you get guys that don't care about the money total at the end of the day. Like these guys want to win.
Yeah.
And they love the brotherhood. They love speaking to kind of the family feeling and the culture that we see. I love the tradition of skating around the ice, holding up the cup, and every player gets a turn doing that. And I think that's awesome. And what Florida did, I absolutely loved. Instead of the captain, Barkov, doing it, or a vet like Marchand, or the heart and soul of the team, Sam Bennett or Tkachuk, they let the players that have never won the Stanley Cup before be the first ones to take it around the ice.
Love that.
That's so out of the ordinary, out of the norm. But with this Florida team, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, these guys are a family, and it clearly showed when the rubber meets the road, or when the skate met the ice, if you want to go that way. I mean, these guys, they were the best team.
I think...
and ultimately, Edmonton just couldn't keep up.
I agree. I think... kind of like you mentioned, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, 2 phenomenal players. I think any team would be lucky to have McDavid and Draisaitl on their side.
Mm-hmm.
But the goaltending just wasn't good for the Oilers. Whether it was Skinner, the goaltending just wasn't there for the Oilers. And I think that's probably what hurt them the most.
Yeah, that was
no doubt.
That was one of their issues last year, and they just didn't fix it at all.
Yeah, and that's where you get to this will be our segue. That's where you get to Connor McDavid being unhappy. And that's very frustrating to be the star, the face of the franchise, one of the faces of the NHL, when everybody on your team knows, and your front office knows, that you have a glaring weakness that is going to keep you from hoisting that cup, and you don't go out and address it. They had a year to figure it out. What did Florida do at the trade deadline, right? They make their team better. They go and get Marchand. They didn't need him.
They got Seth Jones,
They go get Seth Jones.
Yep.
They didn't need him. But guess what? They felt like, okay, this is our championship window. If we want to win, we need to be as good as we can possibly be. So they go out and they make moves to get better. Edmonton didn't do that. And now you get Connor McDavid, 1 year left on his deal. He is extension eligible this July 1st, right? So that kind of starts your countdown. if he doesn't feel like he can win in Edmonton, he's going to want to leave.
Yeah.
And at first, I said this tongue in cheek. I tweeted right after this game went final. I said Bill Armstrong needs to get McDavid out of Edmonton. But then, like, you start seeing all these clips of McDavid kind of sounding unhappy, and he said that he's going to take some time to talk with his agent and his family, and he likes Edmonton, and he does feel like there's unfinished business. But with that being said, yada, 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 and like the with that being said is so huge, it makes me see light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that some of these accounts, I don't remember who it was, whether it was a Bleacher Report or something like that, like they put out a graphic that said who should sign Connor McDavid if he becomes a free agent. And the Utah Mammoth logo was on there.
Wow.
And just to be in that position as a Utah sports team, that's something that we are not used to. Imagine if prime Kevin Durant hit free agency, right? That year he went to the Warriors. Imagine if the Utah Jazz were in conversation to get Kevin Durant that year. That's what you have with Connor McDavid right now. So that's just, yeah, for the Mammoth to be in that, obviously he has to hit free agency first, and
right.
We're still a year out from this being any sort of possibility. But the Mammoth are going to have the money. They're going to have ways to get it done if they so choose. And so then at that point, it really comes down to if they want to and if McDavid wants to. It could be a possibility, Alex.
Don't get me excited.
Oh, I'm going to get you excited.
Don't get me excited. That's still a year away, okay?
I'm going to get
you. He still has another year with Edmonton. Don't get me excited. Connor McDavid here in Utah would be
Imagine this.
Phenomenal.
Starting the first line.
Oh.
Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Clayton Keller. Second line, Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley, and
whoever.
I don't know, maybe Josh Doan or something, but it doesn't matter.
whoever they pick up. No, that'd be incredible. And look, it's kind of awesome and crazy that we are now, the Utah is now in a position where they can think about things like this, where they can think about making some big moves in the NHL, when they can think about making some big waves in hockey. Now that this is a hockey market, there is a hockey team here, and I feel like there is an ownership, there is a front office, with that hockey team that I feel like they want success, and they're going to do what they can and everything that they'll have that drive to build something special.
Yeah.
And if that includes Connor McDavid, then I'm all game, man.
I'm all game too.
I'm all game.
I promise you that. What I think is interesting is you're not hearing. So last year, Bill Armstrong was very open about we're not quite a playoff team yet, but we plan to be very soon. And I know those weren't his exact words. I'm kind of paraphrasing. But we saw moves, right? They traded for Sergachev. They traded for Marino. They made moves to set themselves up. And this year, throughout the offseason, we're hearing that, they may or may not be players in free agency. We're not sure what they're going to do with the fourth pick, whether they're going to make the pick or trade down and get some talent. And I think that's on purpose. I think it's quiet on purpose, right?
I would agree.
But I'd be shocked if they don't do something big here in the next couple weeks. I mean, I know the draft is next Friday, and then again, free agency opens on July 1st.
Right.
I would be absolutely shocked if they're not players because, again, the moves you made last year, the trades you made last year are setting yourself up for success this year. So you have to keep building and compounding on that. If you make those moves last year and don't do anything big this year, that doesn't make sense. Now is your time to go all in, whether you're taking a swing on Mitch Marner or whether you are trading that number 4 pick for a veteran that can come in and help you win. Or maybe you miss out on Marner. There are going to be other potential names that you can bring in, whether or not they're stars. I mean, Marino was such an under-the-radar ad for the defense, and I know that he was hurt most of the year. But that's a solid veteran that's going to come in and help these young guys win. So maybe that's the route they go, is just building out that second, third, and fourth line in free agency. Who knows? But I think that they're going to make some pretty sizable moves in the next couple weeks. And I will say I'm not I'm not an insider. I'm not reporting anything. All right, I got to get that out of the way too.
It's a gut feeling.
It's a gut feeling. Okay, I don't have any information. I don't want anybody that hears this.
Don't get your hopes up.
To get their hopes up and then get mad at me if I don't. I basically don't want to hear. Oh, I'm hearing Esparza Sports on the radio say this.
Yes.
I'm just speculating here,
if
guys.
You have, if nothing happens at Esparza Sports,
and tell me I'm wrong,
go flame him.
That's fine. I can take it.
Go yell at him on the Twitter sphere. But no, I think, the Mammoth are in a position where I feel like they are just maybe, a player or two away from being a real playoff team. They weren't that far off last year. And, you go back and you look a couple seasons ago, they've been increasing their point total year after year after year. So the development is there. You can clearly see it as this roster gets more and more points as the years go on. But I feel like if they can bring in that physical center that everybody's talking about, that physical guy up front that can be one of the top scorers, that might put Utah over the top.
Yeah. Again, next week is the draft. The week after, free agency starts. So we will see how this goes. Sean, how is free agency in the NHL? I know, like other leagues, NBA and NFL, you typically see the bigger stars sign deals right away, right?
Yeah.
Is that how the NHL is?
Yeah.
Everybody wants the big names, man.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. And I think Utah fans should be excited because obviously it's a big deal. And to be in this position where, we were on the cusp of seeing playoff hockey here in Utah, so close to that happening. Injuries, not quite being ready, yada, 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 whatever. Feels like next year is the year we're going to see that happen. So tune into The Zone all week, next week, and the week after. All right, we got to take a break. Coming up next, we're going to hit technical fouls. And then coming up at 11, we're going to hear from Matt Babcock. He's an NBA draft analyst. And we're going to chat and preview the NBA draft with him. So stay tuned. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you touch the thermostat, you'll get hit with a bat. Because that's a technical foul. You will feel my wrath. That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
It's the Saturday Show. Welcome back, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles with me here. It is time for Technical Fouls, one of our favorite segments every week. We get to talk about some of the funnier things that happen in the world of sports. We award people with technical fouls and say, hey, you're kind of stupid. You're kind of dumb. And we are going to laugh at you today.
We are. Yes, we're going to make fun of you.
Alex, why don't you start us off?
Did you hear about Shedeur, man?
Who didn't hear about Shedeur Sanders?
We got to talk about Shedeur. That's the first one we're going to hit today.
Okay.
Shedeur Sanders, not once, but twice, getting cited for speeding in Cleveland. One of the most, looked at rookies. I feel there's a magnifying glass on Shedeur Sanders because of the name, because of what happened in the draft. You're supposed to go first round. Didn't go till the 144th. And now, obviously, he's over here speeding and driving 91 in 65 zones.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Can't do it.
Well, and my biggest thing was...
Oh, and 101. Don't forget 101 as well.
A lot of people have got speeding tickets before.
Right.
A lot of people...
I think I've had like 5.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have admitted that on the air. Look, it's not necessarily... I mean, we've seen, what was it, Jordan Addison with the Vikings. I think he was going like 134. Henry Ruggs, obviously, killed somebody in a crash. So it's like, yes, speeding is dangerous. I think the thing that frustrates me more with this Shedeur Sanders story is that you've got to understand that you have the biggest microscope on you right now out of all of the rookies in this draft because of your name and your story and your family and all of this. Everybody, every reporter, everybody who cares about the NFL is watching your every single move.
Yeah.
Not only do you fall in the draft, you plummet. And so now you're this underdog who has to try and come in and make a career after being a fourth or fifth round pick. Who cares? But you are dumb enough to not have your entire life buttoned up. Like, I would think that after that happens, that should have been a wake-up call. After, the draft is what I mean. That should have been a wake-up call to Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to button up my life. I'm going to not have this loud, noisy personal life outside off the field affecting whatever is going on. I'm going to show up and work hard every single day. I'm going to prove that I should have been in the first round. I'm going to prove that I can be the franchise quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And you've got to know that people are watching your every move. And this twice in 1 month shows me that he does not care. I know from experience, I will admit I have had a speeding ticket. And you know what, Alex? For the next several months after I got that speeding ticket, you know what I did not do?
Speed.
So for Shedeur Sanders to get cited in, what was it, early? I don't know. I don't remember when the first one was, but I think they were both in June, right?
I think so.
So for him to get cited the first time early on in June, or whether it was May, whatever,
right,
and to not care and then do it again, he's a bust.
So you have the speeding citation for 101 that happened this week. You have a citation for driving 91 in a 65. He was pulled over a third time for going 41. For going 60 in a 40, and so he's been pulled over. He's been pulled over 3 times. Got cited for 2 of those, and according to record, he failed to appear for his citation.
No, he's a bust.
So
I don't care if he hasn't played a down in the NFL. This shows. No, I'm being so serious.
No, I know you are.
This shows me all I need to know. He's going to be out of the league before he signs a second contract.
According to records, Shedeur failed to appear for an arraignment for those citations this past Monday, and now faces $269 in court fines,
which is less than pennies for a guy who has his kind of money, and
But still,
that's the kind of stuff that frustrates me when you see professional athletes who they do not care about discipline. They've never had to face real consequence in their life. And that's what's hard when you get into children of, Hall of Famers and superstars, right? Like, this isn't a guy that's ever had to face struggle or challenge in his entire life.
Right.
So he does not know what real consequences are. And I'm not faulting Dion for that. I'm not trying to say anything about his parenting or whatever. I'm just saying that the fact of the matter is, like, when you grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth, right, your life is a lot different than somebody else who has to kind of make things for themselves. And I know that Shedeur was a talented quarterback, and I do not want to deny that. I do think that he slid in the draft. I think talent-wise he should have been selected a lot higher, but this is the type of stuff that makes you fall. And, I'm done feeling bad for him. I'm done with him. This is so frustrating. And I know, again, it's just a speeding ticket, whatever, quote unquote. Like, I'm so over with this.
For this most recent one where he got booked cited for going 101, he has to pay a $250 fine, or he can appear on court on July 3rd to fight the ticket.
Do you think he's gonna fight the ticket?
No, he didn't show up for his last one.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. Okay, let's move on because we've got a guest in the next segment. Don't want to make him wait too long. We'll make this quick. Corey Perry. He is a member of the Edmonton Oilers. I'm issuing a technical foul to him because he just lost his 5th Stanley Cup Finals in the last 6 years. He's been on the losing end of 5 of the last 6
That's rough.
Stanley Cup Finals.
That's rough.
That is really rough. The only year where he didn't make the finals and lose, 23-24, he was with the Blackhawks.
I feel kind of bad for him.
I don't.
I kind of feel kind of bad for him.
I from the outside perspective, I could see why you feel bad.
Yeah.
I mean, even Sean said I don't feel bad for him. I think
a bit.
It sounds like he's a very disliked player among the NHL circles.
Plus, he won one with Anaheim, so
It's not like he's lost every single one, right? Yeah.
Still, I mean,
Why do people not like him, Sean?
his nickname's the Worm. I mean, he just does all the nasty stuff. If he's on your team, you love it. But
Is he a goon?
a little bit.
Okay.
He just does all the little things like after the whistles, poking the goalies.
So he fit right. Actually, he was one of the big instigators in that 5-on-5 fight
Yeah.
with Edmonton and Florida. Yeah, I think
Not
he's the
lying,
one that
bro.
slashed the guy in the face with his stick.
Yeah.
I can't remember who was down. I think it was Bennett.
I mean, can you blame the guy? He was about to lose yet another Stanley Cup final, man.
Yeah, right. He's just losing his mind.
I would too. I'd be cross-checking. I'd be doing I'd be playing dirty too, man.
So whatever team Corey Perry joins next, I don't know how long his contract is with Edmonton, but whoever his next team is, you can bet on them making the finals. It's a pretty good bet, but do not bet on them winning the finals.
If whatever team Corey Perry's on, or bet the opposite team.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up next, we're going to chat with Matt Babcock. He is an NBA draft analyst. I believe he is a former agent as well. We're going to preview Wednesday's draft. It's one of the biggest nights in Utah Jazz history, so can't wait to talk about that next. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back, folks. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. Very excited for our next guest. Let's get out to the zone phone. He's going to help us break down and preview Wednesday night's NBA draft. It's Matt Babcock. He is an NBA draft analyst. You can read him at babcockhoops.com. What's up, Matt? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
So excited for Wednesday. It's a big night. Here in Salt Lake City, I was talking about with my co-host off the air, kind of feels like for the Jazz especially, one of the biggest nights in franchise history as far as needing to exit this rebuild.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the fifth pick in this draft is a big one. This is a good draft, at least towards the top. So you're absolutely right. I think they have a great opportunity to add, a potential, game changer.
So looking at the draft on Wednesday night, realistically, I mean, obviously you're not going to see a Cooper Flag fall to fifth, but realistically, what are the names that Jazz fans specifically should be looking at that number 5 pick?
Every year leading into the draft, there's so many rumors and smoke screens being thrown. And this year feels like that even more so than usual. And so a lot of it is, who's going to be there. And I think, as you mentioned, Cooper Flag's going to go number 1. Everybody's confident Dylan Harper will go number 2. After that, it starts to get a little dicey. I'm an NBA draft analyst. I'm supposed to be one that they project these picks. I've never been so uncertain about the lottery as I am this year. So, but to answer your question, I'm expecting VJ Edgecombe to go number 3, and then the next group of guys will be somewhat order of Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears. Come on, Malawat from Duke. His name keeps getting thrown around. So I would assume if they're staying put at number 5, they'll probably be with that group. Also, Con Knuppel from Duke. It likely will be from that group.
Ace Bailey has been a hot topic this week, obviously, with not working out with NBA teams, reportedly canceling his workout with the Philadelphia 76ers. What's going on there? Do you think he's just getting bad information from an agent? Do you think he might be banged up and not wanting to show that? Or do you think he's trying to force his way to a specific team or situation?
I think it's a little bit of all of it. And, I think part of it is that there were question marks with him on the court, the on-court evaluation. I mean, very talented player, 6'8", tough shot maker. I mean, does some things that only, star players do. So it just gives him an extremely high ceiling. But, I think in his interviews, kind of doing some background on him, he's a young kid, and he comes off pretty immature. I don't think there's anything, personality or background-wise that's necessarily a red flag of, hey, we don't want this guy. But he's just a young guy that's still developing, on the floor and personally. And so I think that's raising questions. His representation, they've taken the approach that he's not worked out or visited any teams. And the way I see that is, especially in a good draft where you're drafting towards the top, these are big investments for these organizations. And having the guys come in, it's really not about the workout as much as it is getting to spend time with him, letting the medical staff evaluate him. And so I think they're just kind of leaving some more looming questions unanswered. And so it's just creating some uncertainty.
One of the names that's really taken off here in the Salt Lake market is Trey Johnson out of Texas. What have you seen from Trey Johnson, and why should Jazz fans be excited about that name?
Yeah, no, I've watched him a lot for a long time. Followed him all through high school. He's a bucket getter. I mean, tough shot maker. Can create his own shot off the dribble. But he's a shooter and scorer. And I think shooting comes at a premium, especially in the modern NBA. And so I think he's prepared to step in right away and be somebody that could provide a scoring punch.
Sounds like Jeremiah Fierce has been crushing his workouts the last couple of days. Is that a name that you would expect to be in the mix for Utah as well, or do you think that 5 may be a little rich, especially with already having Keontae George and Isaiah Collier being kind of on the smaller side there?
I don't think 5 is too high for him. I think that's right in his range. And I'm very impressed. It's similar to what I said about Trey Johnson. I've watched Fierce for years. And keep in mind, he was supposed to be a senior in high school this past season. He reclassified up, and he was just terrific at Oklahoma. And I think his game fits the NBA well, too, of being an on-ball creator, really, really good in pick and roll. And the NBA's just got much better spacing. And so I think he's got a chance of being a very good player. I think the internal question that they're probably asking, as you mentioned, does he coexist with their young guards very well? And I think he and Isaiah Collier, I'm not sure you can play those guys together much or at all. And so I think that's the question. Talent-wise, though, I wouldn't be surprised to see them, at least consider him heavily.
Looking now, I mean, the Jazz have 2 first-round picks. They have obviously the number 5, and they also have the 21st pick. Is there any guys that stand out in that range that maybe Jazz fans should be keeping an eye out to potentially see if they can find a diamond in the rough at number 21?
A lot of it's going to depend on what they do at 5. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them be active on the trade market as well. I mean, obviously, Austin's taken over, but he's learned from his dad, and Danny's not scared to make some moves, especially on draft night. I think it's a combination. See if they stay put at these picks. And you just got to see who's there. I mean, I keep mentioning the uncertainty of the lottery, but I mean, even after the lottery, that there's players with a lot of wide ranges. And again, I don't have a great answer for you because I don't know who's going to be there.
I like that you mentioned the trades and that you bring that up because there are rumblings of potentially some movement. What are you hearing from that, and what kind of moves should we be maybe anticipating come draft night?
Like I said, there's always a lot of trade chatter this time of year. This year, it feels like there's a lot more than usual. And speaking to executives and agents, the word that keeps coming up is uncertainty. Agents and their clients are pretty anxious. There's not as many backstops for guys, and it's just guys with very wide ranges. I mean, in years past, when we're doing our mock drafts and whatnot, this time of year we're usually able to pinpoint quite a few picks, and we're hearing rumblings of guys being in the mix. But again, most picks that there's 4 or 5 guys being attached to the pick, and honestly it's a lot of chaos right now behind the scenes.
I want to hear your thoughts on VJ Edgecombe. He was a name that was maybe in conversation for the Jazz at 5, it felt like, but now it feels like he might not be there by the time the Jazz are on the board. But you never know what can happen, especially, as you said, a lot of uncertainty here. So what does a guy like Edgecombe bring, and what do you think that he'll excel at the NBA level?
Yeah, my thought is he won't be there at 5, but if he is, he would be a great pick. He's got so much upside. He's a 6'5", elite athlete. I mean, maybe on like the Russell Westbrook level, more of a two guard than an on-ball guard, but is very capable of making a lot happen. He's very dynamic, and he's a great kid. I mean, his approach to the game, even though he's a young guy, he plays so hard. Seems like a good teammate. I think he's got a chance of being a premier guy if everything clicks.
Also looking at the development of a Con Knippel. Obviously, we saw what he did at Duke. A lot of people have been impressed with him and his combine showing. What kind of abilities does a Con Knippel bring?
He's interesting. I mean, all these names we keep talking about have significant upside. I think Con is sort of the safe pick of this draft. A 6'5", 6'6", shooter, high IQ. It's very easy to envision him having a long career as a very good complementary player and a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective and, shoot on the move, shoot off the catch and shoot. You can plug a guy in like that just about anywhere. And so, I mean, I do think, his name's been brought up as high as 3 or 4. But I mean, he could even go down to 10. I mean, he definitely fits that mold of this year of a guy having a wide range. But I think he's very well thought of across the board. Just as I mentioned, he's a plug and play guy that even though he's young, I think everybody could use a guy like that.
When you think of a team like the Jazz, who don't particularly have a franchise player, do you think that maybe a Knippel would be a safe choice because you know what you're going to get in him essentially, and then maybe next year you could say, okay, let's go try and get a Cam Boozer or an AJ DeBonsa, and you know that Con Knippel would be a good fit next to them?
I think that's a reasonable approach. Personally, looking at these guys that will likely be there, I would probably swing for a more upside guy myself. But I don't think it would be a bad pick. If Ace Bailey's there, or Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears, I think the upside is a lot higher.
Looking at another guy who has kind of boosted himself through combine and through his workouts, a guy with local ties, Yegor Demin, making his way up mock drafts. What have you seen from Demin, and how does his game translate to the NBA level?
Yeah, as you guys know, it was a very roller coaster year for him. He started off so hot, and then he slipped and really was struggling, and then really gained momentum towards the end of the season. And in the pre-draft process, it seemed to help him a lot. I was at the NBA draft combine, I was at his pro day, and his name was buzzing. And his pro day, there were full staffs checking him out intently, and I think his range is very wide. I've heard rumblings that his representation was saying he's locked to be in the top 10. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but I've heard Brooklyn's interested. So my bet is he's somewhere, let's say 8 to 20, something like that. But he's going to be a great player. He's got size, one of the best passers I've ever seen, and I have hope he's going to be able to address some of his issues with physical strength and consistency with his outside shooting.
Another name that we've seen kind of rising lately, Kaman Maluach, and a lot of people have kind of talked about him potentially going to Utah, which is interesting because they obviously have Walker Kessler on the roster, so the thought there would be maybe potentially trading Kessler away. Do you think that's a strategy that an NBA team would do, especially a team in the Jazz's situation? Do you think that would be a smart move?
I think it just depends on the personal evaluation of both Maluach and Kessler. I have heard this conversation come up. It's similar to what we were talking about with Jeremiah Fears and Isaiah Collier. If a guy can't coexist, is there enough minutes long term if both players develop like you think they will? And that's I think sort of a fair question to ask. And that's why guys that have versatility have a lot of value in the NBA right now. It's a very positionless game, and guys that are versatile on both ends of the floor, it's a little safer or easier to kind of paint a picture of what their pathway to success is going to look like. And Maluach is a big-bodied center. He's a sort of an old-school defensive anchor 5. He's huge wingspan. However, he is pretty mobile, can cover some space, and he's shown flashes he actually can shoot the ball. And that's one thing in his pro day this year. I heard something like he had 18 threes in a row. So people are really excited about him, and I think I'd be surprised if he got out of the top 10.
Looking at this draft, if the Jazz's pick doesn't pan out, there's a lot of conversations and a lot of talk about next year's draft being either just as good and maybe even better. How do you evaluate next year's 2026 class?
I'm excited about this year's draft. Next year might be even better. I spent this last week at USA Basketball. Their U19 team had a training camp, and some of the guys were there, including AJ DeBanza and Koa Pete, that's going to Arizona, was there. Mikael Brown going to Louisville. Very, very excited about this group. And AJ, every time I see him, I just get more and more excited. I mean, he checks so many boxes, and he's a young guy that still needs to develop, but his upside might be as high as any prospect that I've ever seen.
Outside of the draft and more on the NBA as a whole, what are you hearing on the Kevin Durant trade front? I know that was a move that some people were kind of expecting to be made possibly within the last week. There's motivation for Phoenix to get it done before the draft. Do you think that's something that we're going to see here in the next couple of days?
I think so. I'm hearing everything that's being published out there. It sounds like there is a ton of trade talk. I do believe they will move him. I think they sort of have to at this point. It sounds like their asking price has been pretty high. I mean, for a guy that's essentially going to be a short-term rental. I mean, just with his age and how his contract's set up. But I do think something will happen, and I'm hoping it happens sooner than later, so we can start figuring out what's going to happen in this draft, and I try and get my mock draft somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
No, I think everyone's just kind of waiting for that shoe to fall, whether it's KD or whether it's maybe even Giannis. I know that there's a lot of talk about Giannis's kind of the trade cooling off for Giannis Antetokounmpo, but is that still something that's at play that we might be able to see before this draft?
All indications, like from my perspective, is that Giannis will be there at least for next season. But things in the NBA can change quickly. And my dad's been with Milwaukee for 28 years. So on a personal note, I'm hoping he'll stay with the Bucks.
All right. Well, Matt, we really appreciate you taking some time to join us today, especially on a Saturday. I know that can be tough with this being a real busy season for you. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll be sure to keep an eye out for your latest mock draft.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
There you go. That is Matt Babcock, NBA draft analyst for Babcock Hoops, joining us here on the KSL Sports Zone. Really interesting insight there. I think the Ace Bailey situation, something that fascinates me. We haven't really seen anything like that where a player is flat out refusing to work for teams and canceling workouts. So that's a bit of a wild card there. But regardless, I think the Jazz are going to have a crack at getting a really good player on Wednesday night.
I think if teams aren't deterred by Ace Bailey and everything that's come out about Ace Bailey this past week, if we don't see movement at the top, right? If the Spurs keep their pick, if the 76ers keep their pick, I don't see why Ace Bailey doesn't go top. I don't see why Ace Bailey doesn't go third.
Talent-wise, yes.
Yeah.
With all the stuff off the court, it sounds like sounds like his agent is tough to deal with. And I think that's hard. And that's something that teams probably try and have to balance, versus you're drafting a kid, right? So how much of their personality, if he has personality issues, how much of that can be changed by the time he turns into a 25-year-old versus right now as an 18-year-old? So I think that plays a big part. And obviously, if you don't get a chance to talk to him, you might not know. So that it's a big risk. And I could understand why a team, the Jazz, for an example, we talk about how big of a night Wednesday is going to be. I would totally understand why they wouldn't want to mortgage their future by taking a guy who you have no idea is going to pan out, no matter how talented he is on the floor.
I think kind of what, to what Matt said, if a VJ Edgecombe or an Ace Bailey is available at 5, is that, especially in the case of Ace Bailey, is that a gamble that the Jazz decide to take? Yeah. And I'm interested to see I think if Edgecombe is available at 5, I think it's an obvious answer. You take Edgecombe. But if Bailey ends up falling to 5th and the Jazz, have that opportunity to pick him, I'm curious to see if the Jazz decide
if they pull the trigger.
If they pull the trigger and decide to take that gamble.
I've been thinking, well, first off, I will say, and this is kind of a bad trait that I have, is I can be talked into anything. Like I'm such a hopeful person when it comes to sports. Like I have read so many good things about a lot of the prospects, and I have, preferences, or you could say players that I think would fit the Jazz better, I guess is the better way to put it. But man, I've really been talked into Con Knippel. And I know that the upside conversation is something that can be had. And do you really want to spend a top 5 pick on a guy that's likely not going to be the best player on your team and things like that? But when you look at what Con Knippel does well and what Will Hardy wants as far as play hard and pass, and it's like that versus Ace Bailey, for example. Ace Bailey does not pass. And yes, he plays hard, and I don't want to discredit that, but not only is Con Knippel one of the best or the best shooter in this class, he is a very, very high IQ passer on the levels of, we talked about how crucial Tyrese Halliburton is for the Pacers, right? And Knippel's not going to be your primary ball handler. He's not going to be the point guard running the team, but he's going to be involved in a lot of these actions and a lot of these movements and knowing when to pass the ball, when to shoot, how to read an NBA defense. And I think that gets overlooked because of physical talent. And maybe he's not the best athlete as, like a VJ Edgecombe or whatever. I don't want the ceiling argument to take away from his true abilities that are going to translate.
I think, I understand not wanting to speed up the rebuild, and I understand wanting to get out of this a little bit sooner and start winning some games a little bit sooner. But I wouldn't mind taking a player with an incredibly high ceiling that has the potential to be the star again this draft, especially knowing what's coming in 2026.
Yeah, well, and the way I look at it too is you took those big swings the last 2 drafts with Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams.
Yeah.
If you whiff on this pick, let's say you take Ace Bailey and he completely busts, you're in big trouble.
Yes.
So if you're the Jazz, you almost want to take a safe pick here. And it's not like the safe pick is a bad thing. It's not like you're getting a bum. Con Knippel still has really high upside. He could still make all-star games. He's just never going to be a probably top 10 player in the NBA, right? He'll probably be borderline top 25, top 30 if he hits his peak. But that's not bad. You still need that to win games, especially where you're the Jazz and you don't have anything close to that right now. So if you have a guy with the higher floor and you're just trying to build a team, go get that. Especially if you have a concrete plan for next year. If you're still planning on being bad, if you want to hold on to your pick and not send it to Oklahoma City so you're going to be picking 8 or higher, go get the guy that can fit next to anybody else. Because you need a team to win. You need guys who play specific roles, not 10 young guys who all think they're going to be the best player on the team. Like you need guys who have identified roles, and I think Con Knippel fits that really well. Obviously, shooting is a big skill in the NBA. Passing is a big skill in the NBA. So I think that Knippel fits what the Jazz want and what Hardy wants in more ways than one. And you could say this is me pounding the table for him. Obviously, we're going to see what happens. Again, I think that being at pick 5 means that you're going to get a good prospect regardless. So with that being said, if the Jazz don't get Knippel, whether it is Ace Bailey or a Trey Johnson or Jeremiah Fears, I do think whatever prospect comes in is going to have a very clear path to success.
I would agree. And, if everything goes the way that I think people think it's going to go and nothing crazy happens in the top 4, right? Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper. And this is where it gets murky, right? Is it Ace Bailey? Is it VJ Edgecombe? Who goes there? Who goes what? But I think at 5, I think for me personally, the best bet would be either Con or Trey.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. But again,
Trey Johnson
with
or
this
Con
draft in particular, it's like you have no idea.
Yeah,
But when you look at what the Jazz lack, right, they don't, I know Sensabaugh is a good shooter, but outside of that, they do not have enough shooting on the team. And so, that's where you look at Trey Johnson, and that's where you look at Con Knippel. And that's just what makes most sense to me. So
makes sense to me.
Or us, I guess. Yeah. That's what we're saying, us. So
we'll see what happens, man. Wednesday's gonna be. I think for a lot of Jazz fans, it'll be a little bit nerve wracking, right?
Oh,
because, we were talking about this in the break, but it's not. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this is a monumental draft for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
And if they don't hit on this pick, that might just get you stuck in a rebuilding situation for another 3 or so years, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we were kind of mentioning off the air. I don't want it to sound like too much of an exaggeration, but Wednesday night, if you whiff on that 5th pick, if you whiff on 21, if you don't come out with a good player from this year's draft, that's going to pause this rebuild. It's going to stagnate, right?
Yes.
And you don't know how much longer it's going to take. You need to come out of this draft with something. So that's why it's so big. I want to give a plug real quick. Obviously, we're going to have the best draft show in town. We're going to be at the Cage. It's going to be the Cage is on Redwood Road. It's a batting cage, so that's really fun. We're going to be killing it with draft coverage all night long. Our draft show will officially be hosted by Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, and Steve Cleveland. A lot of other people are going to stop by, JJ, Hans, PK, Scotty G. That's all round 1. Round 2, it's going to be Ben Anderson and Chandler Holt killing the draft coverage. So a lot of guys working Wednesday night to bring you the best coverage possible. And I'm excited because I think this Kevin Durant trade, when it comes, it's going to set off a bunch of dominoes. You could see other moves get made possibly before Wednesday, but the draft is always fun. So.
Right. You have the KD rumblings. What's going to happen there? Earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, there was reports that the Spurs and the 76ers were shopping around their picks.
Yeah.
At 2 and 3, and so we'll see what happens, man. But I'm kind of on the train and on the sentiment where there's moves to be made.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see what happens as we get closer and closer to Wednesday night, and even on Wednesday night.
Yeah, during the draft, don't rule out trades getting made as well. Again, thanks to Matt Babcock. Sorry for joining us there. You can check him out at babcockhoops.com. We got to take a break. Coming up next, we'll hit 5 minutes of. Got a couple other things to talk about. Of course, the Lakers selling for a record $10 billion. We'll hit that next. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for 5 minutes of. Lot to talk about. Always a ton of sports news, not a ton of time left in our short little Saturday show. Alex, what should we start off with here?
Well, I think the big one is the Lakers, man. Largest
Price tag for any professional sports sale ever. $10 billion. Mark Walter acquires the Lakers from the Buss family. $10 billion. Can you believe that?
$10 billion is an insane amount of money.
Ryan Smith bought the Jazz for like two point something billion, right?
The times have changed.
Now they do estimate that the valuation has doubled since then, right? So you're looking at maybe close to $5 billion if you're lucky for the Jazz. But obviously, the Lakers are one of the sports franchises in the world.
Yes.
They are. You can go anywhere and people are going to recognize that logo because of all the legacy they've had. A lot of championships. Almost all of the best players in NBA history have played for the Lakers at some point. They always seem to acquire star talents. I do think it's funny that this sale comes after they acquire Luka Doncic. There's still a chance that he could end up leaving in free agency. You never know. He doesn't have a ton of time left on his deal, but seems like he's the next face of that franchise. So good time to capitalize for the Buss family. Obviously, you get $10 billion is a lot.
I think, as far as the new ownership coming in and, there's the big Luka Doncic question that needs to be answered. I think it would be silly of them not to do everything they can to try to keep him.
Yeah.
He is going to be your face of the franchise now. He is going to be the guy. Obviously, there's still a question on whether or not LeBron returns, whether or not LeBron continues to play. And if LeBron decides that this is it, I highly doubt it. But if he decides that this is it, then you have to do every single thing that you can to keep Luka Doncic because he's your guy now.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to be one of the first, as far as, roster building goes, that's going to be one of the first big questions that we're going to see from this new ownership. While I think, Jeannie Buss continues to kind of be the governor and operate the team, which I think is weird. You sell your majority stake and then you continue to run the team. But we'll see we'll see how that dynamic ends up working out.
Well, as long as LeBron is there, he's going to run the team. But you never know. I mean, I think they kind of showed with the Luka trade, specifically trading Anthony Davis away. I think that was the first sign like, hey, LeBron, we're taking power back. And I think this is continuing that trend, right? This guy also owns the Dodgers, by the way, one of the best teams in baseball, especially after getting Ohtani and how big that is. So it seems like the Lakers are going to have an opportunity to really spend as far as having the best facilities and the best training rooms and gyms and nutrition and all of that stuff that really gives you the edge over everybody else. I don't want to think about the Lakers becoming good again, but there's a chance that they might. And of course, you've got to make the right front office moves as far as putting players on the court, but starting with Luka and then building from there, that's not a bad spot.
Absolutely not. I think the Lakers, after this sell, and they're already in a position to kind of succeed.
Yeah.
They just need to build on it, right? You already have your superstar, you have LeBron James. Now it's just kind of starting to plan what comes after LeBron.
Yeah.
And again, a big part of that will be Luka Doncic, but also you need to have, like we're seeing with the NBA Finals and with these teams, you need to have depth. You need to have a team around your best player, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 5 years with this Los Angeles Lakers team, especially if they're going to want to try to capitalize on another championship while you have Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I agree there. Let's switch gears, talk Utah Mammoth. Preseason schedule came out. Of course, it's preseason, but I think the big note here, so their first technical home preseason game is September 30th. That game is going to be played in Boise, Idaho against the LA Kings. But October 2nd and 4th are their actual home preseason games. The big takeaway, the reason I want to bring that up, Alex, those are going to be the first events at the Delta Center after this summer's renovations. And we know that they're going to continue to do renovations the next 2 years after this one, right? So it's not going to be a completely finished product, but we are going to start seeing the first changes and the first whatever they're working on. I know that there's a plan and all that, and they're going in phases. We're going to see that for the first time October 2nd, and I think that's worth noting.
Absolutely, and it's always a good time going across the street and going to Delta Center, whether it's whether it's watching a Jazz game, whether it's watching the Mammoth now, whether it's going to a concert, hanging out. Delta Center is a fun venue. And, when they released the plans and when they kind of gave us an idea of what their vision was with the renovations, it made me excited. And so I'm excited to see, again, being able to return to Delta Center, seeing what all this off-season construction across the street has done to Delta Center and how they're going to continue to improve it for both Utah Jazz fans and for Utah Mammoth fans.
Yeah, and just to have hockey on the ice.
To have hockey come back, man.
Last year's preseason was really fun.
It was.
They even did they did shootouts after all the games just for fun. Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
And, honestly, I think it's a good idea for them to go to Boise. Start stealing some of those Boise fans. Start building a fan base in Idaho, right? You want to grow this fan base. You want to create some momentum behind this team, and so I think it's a good thing for them to head out to Boise and try to, if there's some LA Kings fans out there, or if there's some Duck fans out there, or whoever they support, right? Go out, make yourself known in the Boise market, and try to steal some hockey fans over there.
Wrapping up this segment, we got to mention real quick, University of Wisconsin is suing Miami for poaching,
This is a big one.
for tampering. I hope it's a big one. I hope that this sets a trend. Long story short, Wisconsin is alleging that Miami contacted Xavier Lucas. He's I believe, is he a defensive back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Freshman.
While he was under contract attending school at Wisconsin, they are saying that Miami contacted him and got him to enter the transfer portal and go to Miami. So that's big because obviously that was a story here locally. There were allegations of a certain school doing that to another school. So this could potentially set a precedent, but at the same time, like, that would be ideal, but I don't think this is going to go anywhere. If I'm if I'm being 100% honest with you, I don't know how much this really changes, simply because there are so many schools, so many programs, so many players, so many agents. It would just be way too hard to stay on top of all of that.
Yeah. The complaint was filed yesterday, Friday, where Wisconsin claims that Miami staff members and prominent alumnus met with Lucas and his family before he was even in the transfer portal, and kind of enticed Lucas to leave Wisconsin and obviously make his way down there to Miami. I think this one's huge, man, because if it does go somewhere and, it does go through the courts and ultimately there's a winner and a loser, I feel like that it has the potential to set a very big precedence.
Right. As far as scaring teams away?
Yes, as far as tampering, as far as poaching players goes. If Wisconsin comes out and wins this lawsuit, right, we're going to be setting the precedence of poaching and tampering, making it basically illegal. Yeah. But if Miami comes out on top, then I think college athletics, you thought it was the wild, wild west. That now, just wait. If Miami wins this, it's just going to get even worse.
I don't know how much worse it can get. I think everybody's already doing it is the thing.
I think it can.
But yeah. I'm with, regardless, either this is going to be like a really big move that really impacts the transfer portal, or nothing is going to change at all.
Right.
So
that's why I think that this one's so important, because it has that potential to really change things and maybe potentially give us some rules and some laws in regards to the poaching, but we'll see what comes out of it. There is still that chance that the judges just toss the case and nothing comes out of it,
or there's a settlement or whatever.
So we'll see, but there's potential there to find some stability, I guess, in college football or in college athletics, and I think that's needed. Yeah,
I think it's very, very much needed. All right, let's take a break. Unfortunately, the show is coming to an end for today. We will wrap it up next. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Putting another bow on it, wrapping up today's show. Last week, we talked about the Indiana Fever. They got Caitlin Clark back, and they beat the New York Liberty.
Yes.
Handed the Liberty their first loss of the season. Then we saw some fireworks, some fights throughout the week. And my hot take, I don't think it's even that hot of a take. I think this is great for the WNBA. I think
couldn't agree more.
And, a lot of what their marketing, I guess you could say, was built on last year was Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. And I think Caitlin Clark as a player has ascended above that, right?
Yes.
Because she's a much better player than Reese. And so you still had the issue of a lot of the WNBA players are jealous of her. They do not like her. They foul her a lot harder than she needs to be fouled. So what do the Fever do? They go out and get an enforcer to stand up for Caitlin Clark when things go south, and that's exactly what we saw last week, and I am here for every second of it. I don't know it's the Phoenix Mercury, right? I believe is their name.
The team that they fought against?
Yeah.
It was the Connecticut Sun.
Oh, Connecticut Sun. Okay.
Yeah,
so it was the Sun.
Yeah.
I don't know their players' names, and I'm sorry, but they were getting into it. But then the one girl comes and just body checks Caitlin Clark, like trucks her, sends her to the ground.
Yeah.
And Sophie Cunningham, newly acquired member of the Fever, she steps up. She says, hey, don't do that, yada, yada, yada. And then we saw later in the game, hard foul, and there's a big fight. as far as Cunningham, she like grabbed the girl and threw her down on the ground. And I think it's what they need. And I know it's kind of cheap. It's kind of, I don't want to say dirty, but it's like you need eyeballs, and that's how you get eyeballs.
I mean, it was trending. It was trending probably just as much, honestly, as Tyrese Halliburton on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
When the news comes out that Halliburton can't play, that's a trending topic, and then you pull up social media, and I go into the search bar, and the first thing that pops up over Tyrese was this WNBA scuffle between the Sun and the Fever.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I guess that's what people want to see. I'm more excited. I'm more so excited about the last year, like you mentioned, Christian. Last year it was Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, but now it seems like it's the Fever and Caitlin Clark versus everybody else, because it seems like it's happening night in and night out, where someone's trying to take a shot at Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been kind of keeping my eye on when it comes to the WNBA.
Well, and eventually you're going to get to the point where the Fever are contenders, and I don't believe they're still quite not there yet, right? But they are rising, and they're a rising team, and eventually Caitlin Clark is going to be good enough to where she can carry that team to a championship. And up until then, I think she's going to have to earn the respect of everybody, and I think she deserves everybody else's respect, but for whatever reason, they don't like her. And we're seeing it every single night. So I think it's fun. I think it's good. I don't know if that was their kind of thought process of picking up Cunningham. I don't know if she had that reputation before of kind of being a scrapper. But seeing her step up for Caitlin Clark, I really enjoyed that. And I think it's kind of heartwarming in a sense. Like, yeah, because we didn't see that last year. We didn't see any of her teammates, like, defend her. You see in an NFL game, the quarterback gets hit after the whistle, and all of the offensive linemen go and beat up the guy that breathes on the quarterback.
Right.
That's what the Fever needed for Caitlin Clark.
I 100% agree. Shout out Sophie Cunningham for giving us the viral clip of the week.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I loved it as well. As far as what we've got on the station, rest of the day, Utah Royals are playing. Pre-match show at 2:30, and then kickoff against the Seattle Reign FC. That is going to be at 2, both signals, because RSL is off for the rest of the month, essentially. And then we've got the Bees playing versus Sacramento later on today. That game is at 7. So everything's kind of spaced out here on the Zone today. Still a lot of action.
Still a lot of action. If want to give a quick shout out to Matt Babcock again for jumping on and joining us. If you missed that conversation earlier, go download it. Go see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Lot of good insight there from about the upcoming draft, and then of course coming up Wednesday, NBA draft show, and Friday NHL draft show here on the KSL Sports Zone. So there's going to be a lot of action this week, Christian. I'm looking forward to it.
I know now that we've got Game 7 tomorrow, and then that's it, and we're really going to enter off-season mode. And I think there are going to be a lot of big news stories the next couple weeks, whether it's Kevin Durant getting traded, whatever the Utah Jazz end up doing. We are going to know what's happening here in Salt Lake City as far as rebuild or starting to contend. It's going to take shape, so stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Catch you next week. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.